Kenjaku is sus. This entity is one of the most mysterious and unholy characters in Jujutsu Kaisen, and that also makes him such an amazing villain for the series and makes the story just all the more dark and twisted. So let's go over him a bit, shall we? Hey guys, this is Enemy Stand User, and today everything is about this entity called Kenjaku and breaking down and kind of debunking who he is and his importance in the story as far as his power, his character, and of course his goals. Now, a lot of my thoughts will kind of be more like assumptions. This will really be more of like a chill video and theories based on the info that we've been given about him, but there isn't really a whole lot to ride on because of his short screen time in the story, but he is definitely one of the biggest key players in JJK and in the timeline, and is absolutely shaking the world of Jujutsu now. Kenjaku is a sorcerer who once lived 1,000 years ago and ultimately has the goal of evolving humankind and creating a new era similar to that of the Golden Age Heian period. But let's first look at what he is. Kenjaku has the curse technique that allows him to hop between bodies and preserve his own life by taking over different people in different eras. This is exactly how he was able to keep himself alive from 1,000 years ago up until this modern age. So to clear up a bit of confusion, this quote-unquote Kenjaku is not technically a curse, but actually someone's physical brain that can hop between people. In the fan book, Gege likens it to how Orochimaru can use his living corpse immortality jutsu from Naruto to sustain himself with a host. So it's kind of like the same principles. This technique can take over the flesh/body of said person by switching brains, and even allows Kenjaku to use the new host's innate technique along with all the info about the person, like their memories. Arguably, you might even say that Kenjaku could use the ability better than the previous owner. But this is the exact situation we're in now, in which from over a year ago, sometime in 2017, after the events of JJK 0, Kenjaku left his previous host and decided to enter Gero Suguru's body, coveting these exact circumstances and leading to the worst outcome now, as he's up and about in this Frankenstein-like form and able to seal Gojo, use his packs, his binding vows, and his new curse manipulation technique to jumpstart the Culling Games and usher in this new world. But that's only the tip of the Kenjaku iceberg. I am going to talk about Kenjaku's known hosts in a second, but first I want to kind of get out the way that Kenjaku in this current Gero form is a bit different. He may look, he may walk, he may talk like Gero, but he is definitely not the same person. It is incredibly subtle, but Kenjaku seems to have just picked up and kind of absorbed Gero's personality, and it really does show. Kenjaku is a lot like Gero, but there are really definitely some moments and things that really sets them apart and tells us that something is off. When you think about Gero is definitely, he does have a decent amount of screen time, and we actually see Gero's growth from a Jujutsu student to a curse user, and we see his corruption, we see his descent into his new philosophy about shamans and a world of only sorcerer without filthy monkey humans. So we also see Gero's imperfection. Gero has a lot of holes in his character that simply just make him human, and he has clear goals. He has a new family that he loves, he cares about. Hell, he even raised Nanako and Mimiko like his own daughters. Gero may be sinister, but his personality is very outgoing. We see all types of things from Gero in his short screen time, like Gero is happy, we see him sad, we see he's angry, he's loving, he's strong. There are just simply things that make Gero, make him a person. Even Gojo noticed how Gero was and trusted him not to just kill his students. But what about Kenjaku? Again, it's very subtle, but when you really look at Kenjaku, there's nothing there. Everything about Kenjaku is fake. It's really hard to tell what he's really thinking, but he is undoubtedly not the same. For instance, with Gero, when you think about Gero, there's a lot of uncertainty. You can tell Geto was very confident, but I'm not sure if he necessarily knew he was going to come out on top or win in JJK0. And even when Geto lost, we see a lot of his flaws and Geto's corrupted way of thinking and his values as a person. What I should say is Geto's resentment. He just couldn't be happy in the end as a sorcerer. However, with Kenjaku simply threw all of his emotion away and lives only to see his goals come to fruition. Nothing is really close to Kenjaku, and he just uses everyone around him as puppets, as a means to an end. And now that is a very stark contrast to how Geto was and how he loved his family and respected sorcerers, but Kenjaku is the very person who threatens the lives of countless people and sorcerers alike, and even threatened Nanako and Mimiko, if you noticed, which Geto would never do. I just wanted to point all this out because to me Geto seems a bit off and very unnerving. You can just tell that there's something inside of Kenjaku. There's something about him, like he's actually a 1,000-year-old entity that has lived countless lives to reach some unforeseen plan. It is very dark. However, regarding Kenjaku's previous lives, we only know of two others, being Noritoshi Kamo and supposedly Jin Itadori's former lover, being Kaori, meaning that Kenjaku is canonically Jin's second wife. I know it's nuts, or partner. I know it's nuts, but that's what we're working with. But going back to Kamo, 150 years ago, during the late 1800s, during the Meiji era, Noritoshi Kamo lived during that time and was regarded as the most evil sorcerer that ever lived. During his time as a sorcerer, there was a woman who had special genetic makeup and actually gave birth to a child that had mixed blood of cursed spirit and human. As a result, she was shunned from her normal life and fled to the Jujutsu sorcerers for help, and that is where she found Noritoshi Kamo and the true horror began. Kenjaku now inhabited the Kamo ancestor and used his power to influence and toy with this human woman, and she was subject to much experimentation along with her children. These half-blood humans were still born as fetuses or could be classified as dead, but because they are also cursed spirit, they could be called cursed wombs. There were 9 pregnancies and 9 abortions. This was the messed up origins of the death painting cursed wombs, and all records of their existence and mother and birth was all wiped from the records. Definitely some very sus activity going on, as the term toyed could very much be interpreted however you want to imagine it, but seeing as how Chozo and his brothers have blood-related Kamo powers, it can be assumed that Kenjaku used Kamo's body to take advantage of this woman and use her however he wanted to, earning him that malicious title, and likely why Chozo absolutely freaking hates Kenjaku. Kenjaku's more recent host though, from like 2003 or so, might actually be more twisted when you dwell on it, being Jin's former lover, who I'll address as Kaori Itadori. I know this woman doesn't necessarily have to be a Itadori or necessarily even have to have anything to do with Kenjaku, but it does make a lot more sense just picking up the vibe from the scene. In this short flashback, Jin is very, very loving and infatuated by his son Yuji and completely disregards his father Wasuke's wishes and his warnings to leave his current partner, being Kenjaku. He says he'll die. Wasuke mentions that he couldn't have a child before with Kaori, and also mentions Kaori's death. But before he could finish, this woman with a scar on her forehead enters and questions Wasuke. First off, this kind of makes me think that because Jin couldn't have a baby previously, Kenjaku is the one who gave birth to Yuji. That is all types of unholy right there. So knocked up Kenjaku, that's all types of unholy. But Jin has to be the most committed dad ever to follow through with this and literally risk everything to have Yuji, including his own life, possibly Kaori's life. As far as Kenjaku goes, there definitely is no greater amount of sus than this. His goals truly are beyond my understanding, and the only plausible sort of cause I could see for his reasons for this coveting these circumstances I could think of is for Kenjaku to inhabit these two people is to create these children. He stated that he wants to create beings that are beyond curse, beyond human, and beyond sorcerer, and death paintings certainly were a creative start. The wombs were like dormant until given human bodies to inhabit, thus giving them intelligence and characteristics of human and curse. Even able to perform Jujutsu, that's how the cursed wombs were. But in Yuji's case, it's like a more complete project. Unlike the cursed wombs, Yuji was born, as far as we know, Yuji was born with a whole body and supposedly seems human despite his odd strength and ability to see curses. Yuji was even able to become a stable vessel for Sukuna and possess his own cursed energy. So it begs the question, is all this just according to Kenjaku's plan? If it is, which it very well could be, this is like 1,000 years in the making. In Kenjaku's life, through all the millennia, it's hinted that Kenjaku had a lot of connections. He may have had a deal with Sukuna to bring him to this modern era, and it does not stop there, as he made contracts with dozens of other sorcerers from their own respective eras to become revived in this current age. There's a lot riding on his plans, and the fate of the Jujutsu world really could just all come down just from Kenjaku's strategy, as even Gojo himself was sealed and is out of the picture. So just to kind of put on our tinfoil hats and kind of talk a little bit about the extreme 4D chess Kenjaku is cooking up right now. In chapter 136, Yuki mentions the solution to the world of Jujutsu and the threat of curses, opting to break away from cursed energy altogether as humans. However, Kenjaku said, the answer lies in optimizing cursed energy. So for the next stage of humanity, we have two converging philosophies. Yuki explains that cursed energy is only abundant in Japan due to Tengen's barrier optimizing it. So as a result, cursed spirits and human sorcerers are born. Japan has a virtual monopoly on cursed energy, and the rest of the world would not remain silent. There would be blood. Humans would be nothing but a mere energy source. In my last Kenjaku video, I failed to mention one particular word that could result from this chaos: war. There could very likely be some type of war for cursed energy or having something to do with cursed energy, since Japan is the only country in the world that really has it. Now, I really cannot say how this war would be fought, but now that the existence of curses and Jujutsu is leaked, nothing will be the same or how it was before. And this outlook on the situation explains why Kenjaku could have had the motive of meeting with other countries like China or the UN or whatever it was in chapter 167. Some really big moves are being made now, and if Kenjaku could create the culling games, who can dictate if he could spread the influence of cursed energy to other nations? I know it's insane, but with Tengen's control fading with his barriers, who is really going to dictate how cursed energy is used? Or if Kenjaku sees Tengen, what would happen? How would Kenjaku's evolution affect the world? These are the questions that make Kenjaku and his motives so incredibly dangerous. We just don't really know how Kenjaku's plans could play out. Tengen said Kenjaku was the most powerful barrier user next to himself, so it's really not too far out to presume that Kenjaku could be planning to spread cursed energy abroad, overseas, and make what happened in Tokyo. You know, that absolute void, that chaos in Tokyo of cursed spirits and chaos. Make that happen all over the world. Kenjaku chose the method of merging humankind and Tengen to spark this dark evolution. Since Tengen evolved so much from 11 years ago, Tengen is now starting to lose himself, and even in his present form, is more like that of a cursed spirit. So if Kenjaku was to meet Lord Tengen now, it's game over. Using cursed spirit manipulation, Kenjaku could seize Tengen, and then the walls separating the world of that we know and the world of curses would crumble. It would literally be hell on earth. Kenjaku really is just so dark and twisted, but what's really crazy about Kenjaku is his absolute know-how and his intelligence in JJK. I don't think it'd be crazy to call Kenjaku the smartest character in the series, and his plans have been in effect for millennia. The only blot in his goals was really the Six Eyes, but even Kenjaku took steps to incite the Shibuya incident and seal Gojo now. So now there's really virtually no one who can stand in his way. With curse manipulation, it gives Kenjaku an extreme variety and an amount of moves at his disposal, and his skill set as a sorcerer is peak compared to most shamans. He has virtually all the skills a sorcerer can learn, such as barrier techniques and even reverse curse. Like Kenjaku said, he coveted these exact circumstances, and he really is shaping up to be like the quote-unquote final boss of Jujutsu Kaisen. And you could say he has very deep connections with key figures in the series like Ryomen Sukuna, and Sukuna and Kenjaku working together is all but confirmed, as Uraume literally stood with him and sees some benefit in collaborating with Kenjaku for Sukuna's release. It really looks like Kenjaku touched everyone's life in one way or another, and it definitely was devastating, as everyone is just like a cog in Kenjaku's grand plan. It's said that his name suggests compassion and salvation. However, based on his action and the chaotic disarray left in Kenjaku's wake, that couldn't be farther from the truth. Gege really just made one of the best antagonists with someone like Geto Suguru and his philosophy as a fallen curse user and the new world he wanted to bring, but absolutely killed it with Kenjaku. He killed it. There is an insane amount of questions that come with Kenjaku, and the lore runs very deep in this Jujutsu world. Who's to say if Kenjaku isn't but one of his many titles, if that even is his real name? Truly, the possibilities are endless as far as his plans, and the absolute 4D chess he's playing right now is blowing my mind. If the Culling Games right now is like a ruse, like what's rumored for it to be, then we ain't seen nothing yet. Kenjaku is literally about to change humankind forever. That's it for this one though, brothers. This was just a quick video going over Kenjaku, some of my crazy thoughts and possibilities that I just wanted to kind of get in the air, get off my chest. But in my next video though, I'll probably talk about like the Culling Games, the future of the Culling Games, or Hakari. We'll see how it is, something like that. But we're actually closing in on almost 1,000 subscribers, so thank y'all so much for that. And when we do get to 1,000, I'll try to, that following weekend, maybe it could be next weekend, the weekend after that, I'll try to do some sort of live stream with like a face cam or something like that, doing something like a special power ranking live video, something like that, just to kind of talk to y'all, get my face out there, answer some of y'all questions, stuff like that. So very exciting stuff. I'm very excited about that. But thank y'all so much. This has been Enemy Stand User, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.